One of the things that I think is important as we engage in this conversation is to think about schedules in terms of different dimensions. We tend to talk about kind of bad work schedules as a kind of a mass of different dimensions. And so I just want to take a minute to unpack that. One dimension is whether people are getting adequate hours. Do they get enough hours to earn a decent living? And as Maureen pointed out, the overwhelming majority of workers in retail are paid by the hour. So hours are important to income. Another dimension is stability, and people's schedules can vary in terms of the number of hours they work week to week, the timing, mornings, afternoons, nights, and the days of the week. Another dimension is predictability, which is how well can you anticipate when you're going to work and when you're not. And when you've got those fluctuating hours and you also don't know when you're going to work, it makes it very difficult to do a lot of different things. And in retail, because people are working fluctuating hours, a lot of that predictability depends on how far in advance schedules are posted and how many changes are then made to those schedules once posted. Another dimension is what is called standard or non-standard timing. We've got this idea in our head that, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 is kind of a standard job. Hardly anybody works that anymore. Harriet Presser's work from a long time ago shows that. But in Europe, those non-standard hours are called unsocial time, which I think tells us something about what they do to people when they work them. And then the final dimension that I'm going to just mention is schedule control, which can change everything. So I might fluctuate different hours week to week, day to day, but if I'm the one who's controlling it, we call that flexibility, and people want that. But when you don't control the number and the timing of your hours, it feels a lot more like instability than flexibility. And so what we can see from the national data and from case studies of national retailers is that retail workers are at risk for problems on a lot of these different dimensions. And just to provide a little bit of statistics, because I am a researcher, from the National Longitudinal Survey of Youth, so this is a nationally representative sample of 26 to 32-year-olds in our labor market, 87% of them reported that the number of hours that they worked in the last month varied from week to week. And the average amount of hours that it varied from week to week was 10 hours. That's a full day of work and a full day of pay. In addition to that, 44% said that their employer determines when they'll work without their input at all. And 50% said that they know when they're going to work a week or less in advance. So retail workers and food service workers are two of the occupations that are highest risk of not just having one problem with work schedules, but having kind of multiple components that make it very challenging for individuals and families. And that's what we see in the data, as you mentioned. What we see is that when people work fluctuating unpredictable hours over which they have little control, we see higher levels of stress. Work-to-family conflict. It makes it very difficult to arrange childcare, to take classes, to study. Child development experts tell us it makes it very hard to establish the kinds of routines that are good for kids, like a regular bedtime and monitoring homework. And in the US, a lot of our social programs are based on the number of hours you work. And if you don't get enough hours, and if your hours fluctuate from week to week, that puts you at risk of not being able to qualify for your child care subsidy, which my colleague Julia Henley studies. And it puts you at risk for not being able to take that unpaid leave under the FMLA. And so these scheduling practices and hours matter, a wide way for individuals and families, and of course for communities as well.